To tonight's Bible study. We have worked our way up to Galatians chapter 6. We'll be reading chapter 6, verse 1 through 10. Last week, as in this week, we will try to finish fairly early. It's a very short passage, but last week there was so much, to live life by the Spirit, and as Paul described, there are two possible ways to live. Life by the flesh or life by the Spirit. And it's not following the law where it's not a lot of don't do this, don't do that, but rather living by the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, patience, etc. Today he starts off in chapter 6 pointing out this. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. Paul points out that yes, we become Christians, we have the Holy Spirit in us, we're walking by the Spirit, we have the indwelling Spirit. He pointed out last week when we read in chapter 5, that the things of the flesh were obvious, and he listed those things off: sexual immorality, debauchery, etc., etc. And we all know these things. He said it's obvious. But he also now warns us today. If someone is caught in sin, let's be realistic. We are all human. I am a human. You are human. We're all human. And all of us are susceptible to sin. As a matter of fact, I point out to people that, we sin just by our thinking. Jesus pointed that out clearly in the Sermon on the Mount. He used, for example, the idea of murder. Don't murder. But if you hate somebody, you're angry at them, and that you want to, and you think about killing them in your mind, just the thought alone, that the act of murder is from the result of the thoughts. How many of us sin? I know I do. We're all guilty. I point out to them, I'm a Hispanic male, and a beautiful woman walked by. I used to point out to the inmate, of course I look, I'm male, I'm a human being, that we sin. And what Paul is saying, if anyone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore them. But the reality, it's not just being caught in a sin. The reality is, I would say, we are all sinners. We're all sinners, and we need to be gently restored. I thank God that I, haven't gone out and murdered somebody or done any of those other acts, but the reality is, how many of us sin each and every day? I am guilty as anybody else. And so Paul says, if you are living by the Spirit, restore them. The whole point of Christianity is for God to restore us back into relationship with himself, and to restore us back into relationship with one another. Unfortunately, we are living in a fallen world. We are sinners, and because we're sinners, we fall short. That's what sin is. We fall short, and we need to be to get restored with God, but we also need to get in restoration with one another. But Paul then gives us this advice: but watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. And the reality is, we are also tempted. Whenever we try to help someone who is dealing with problems, and we have to hear, I remember as a chaplain listening to all these horrible stories and just being exposed to those stories. We are also tempted. And so here's Paul's advice to us, picking up in verse 2 here. It says, carry each other's burden, and in this way you fulfill the law of God. In other words, we are in the business of helping one another. Jesus made the quote, take my yoke upon you. My burden is light and easy. But we are also in this as a community. No one is an island unto himself. And as a Christian, we live in community, and we need each other's support. I point out to people that the reason we go to church is for the community part. We need community support. We need community worship. We need to support one another. And so Paul says, carry each other's burden, and this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And the law of Christ is to love people and to help people in love. He continues, says, if anyone think they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to anyone else. And the whole point is, we're not in competition with one another. That I'm a better Christian because reality is there's no better or worse Christians. We are all human beings in the same boat. We all have problems. We all have needs. We all have, as human beings, we are the same, and we are in the same boat. As a matter of fact, if you don't believe it, take away the vital, important things from us. For example, take away oxygen from us. And doesn't matter, rich, poor, young, old, black, white, we'd all die. Take away food for us for a while, or water, or whatever, we'd all die. We are flesh and blood. We are all in the same boat. And Paul is saying, if anyone thinks they are something, think too highly of themselves, when they are not really that way, they should, really watch it. Because as the old saying, pride goes before fall. And as Christians, and that's why I'm making it quite clear, I am a human being just like you and everyone else. And I am susceptible to any sin and all sin just like you and anybody else. I try each and every day to walk and be the best Christian I can be. None of us are perfect. And so that's why we need to help one another. And he continues and said, each one should test their own action. Unfortunately, a lot of people are too busy looking around at what other people do, what other people say, rather than looking at themselves. As a matter of fact, I've heard this saying, and I live by this. Rather than worrying about other people's business and listening to the gossip and all that, be prepared to deal with just yourself and self alone. Try to improve yourself. I don't know about you, but I read in the Charlie Brown comic book where Lucy said to Charlie Brown, I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to start with you. And I read that script, and I realized that Lucy wants to change the world, and she wants to change everybody outside the world, starting with Charlie Brown. But the reality is, I have found out the way to change the world is by changing myself. If I change, my world change, and the whole world change if I change. And so Paul is saying we should test our own action. And to be a better Christian, don't worry about what other people do or what other people says or other people's problems. Deal with yourself. It's about a relationship between you and God. Test your own action. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing. And that's one of the things is, I had to get out of the comparing business completely. And all of us need to get out of the comparing business of, we compare height, weight, skin color. We do all these different things. But we need to get out of that. He then goes on and said, for each one should carry their own load. Nevertheless, the one who receives instruction in the word should share all goods with their instructors. And Paul is pointing out that he's an instructor to these Galatians, and they're supposed to support him. But the reality is, we are all on both ends of the spectrum. There are times that I was instructed, I had good mentors, good teachers in the past, and there are times where I am the instructor. And I point this out because the reality is, while I was a prison chaplain, I learned more from inmates sometimes than they learn from me. And let me explain. Sometimes, here I had a degree and here I was the chaplain and on. But every once in a while, I did the wrong thing and I had to learn from inmates. And there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, there are times when I'm the teacher and there are times when I'm the student. And that's just the way life is. We should not think too highly of ourselves or too lowly of ourselves. None of us I know I don't know it all. None of us know it all in reality. And we should always be willing to learn from anybody. As a matter of fact, the person I learned the most from is my kids. I learned so much from my kids by just being a parent. I learned about myself. I learned about my kids. I learned about relationship. I learned so much. I'm the parent, they're the child, but I did a lot of learning. That's just the way relationships are. Paul is saying each one of us carry our own burden, but at the same time, make sure we realize that we don't think too highly of ourselves or too lowly in respect. He said, do not be deceived, picking up at verse 7. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Whosoever sows to please the flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. Whosoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary of doing good. I could really dwell here tonight because here Paul is quoting a law. We reap what we sow. It's, from the Hindu tradition, it's the law of karma. Whatever you put out comes back to you. And not only does it come back to you, it come back harsher or better. If you put out good, good will come back to you. If you put out bad, more bad will come back to you. It's a boomerang effect. And I like to point it out, reap what we sow, or cause and effect. The law of cause and effect, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. These are laws. These are not man-made things. The reality is, if you sow corn, you will get corn. If you sow thistles, you will get thistles. If you sow love and forgiveness and acceptance, you will get love, forgiveness, and acceptance. If you sow hate and discord, you will get hate and discord. Paul said God cannot be mocked. This is a law. This is the way life is. And yet we see people who do things, bad things. I stop and think about the world right now. The war in Ukraine and the Russian and Putin and all those things. All the bad things that is happening there is because somebody is sowing bad. We do reap what we sow. All the sanctions against Russia right now, and all the problems they're having there, it's because they're reaping what they sow. People might get away with it temporarily for a little while, but in the long run, we do reap what we sow. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And for every, there's this boomerang effect. And so I feel sorry for the Russian people. In the long run, they are the ones that are going to be suffering because their government has done what they have done. We need to, rather than be a people of hate and anger, we need to be a people of love and forgiveness and acceptance. For we also will reap what we sow. And so every day we need to, I know I remind myself, I'm not better than anybody else. I'm not worse than anybody else. Whatever I put out will come back to me. And so we should be in the business of sowing good so that good can come to us. We should be in the business of sowing love and forgiveness and acceptance so that those things can come back to us. Paul says God cannot be mocked. We reap what we sow. If you sow for the flesh, you reap for the flesh. If you sow to the Spirit, you will reap from the Spirit. But then here is his advice to us. And this is practical advice, good advice. Let us not become weary in doing good. Good. Let us not be weary in doing good. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. A lot of people go, well, I did something good and nothing good happened to me. So, no. Stop and think about it. It's fixing to be spring. When you sow the seed in the spring, do you reap in the spring? No, you have to wait all spring, summer, until the fall. There's a time delay between sowing and reaping. There's a time delay, and I want for us to understand that. There is a time what? Delay. The thing is, we are reaping what we sowed yesterday, last month, 5 years ago. We are reaping the results of the things we sowed in the past. The question is, what are we sowing today will be what we will be reaping in the future. If we're sowing hate and anger and distrust and all those things, in the future that's what we're going to be reaping. It's the same in money. People who saved and invest 20, 30 years ago now are reaping the benefits. It's a law, folks. We reap, but there is a time delay. It says, so Paul says, never, never grow weary of doing good. For the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Unfortunately, some people try some things for a little bit and then they give up. They quit. I mean, life is not for quitters. You sow in the spring and you don't give up. You have to weed the garden. You have to water it. You have to fertilize it. Then, and only after you don't give up time, that then you can reap a bountiful harvest. So Paul continues, and this in verse 10, and this is what he says. Therefore, as we have opportunity, as we have what? Opportunity. Let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. And so Paul is saying, as we have opportunity, and here's the truth, folks, the only time we have is now, and the only opportunity we have now. And so we should use our time now to sow good, realizing that yes, there's a time delay, and we will reap good in the future. But here's the thing about reaping and sowing. If you plant one seed of corn, you don't get one seed back. You get a whole 1,000 seeds back, because normally one corn stalk have 2, maybe 3, average 2 corn, and each corn has about 1,000. So you sow one, you get 1,000 back. That's the way life is too. You sow anger, hate, distrust right now, you get a lot more anger, hate, and distrust in the future. But if you sow love and forgiveness and acceptance and those Christian values, love, patience, kindness, forgiveness, that's what life is about. Unfortunately, a lot of people miss the point. Being a Christian is a lifelong journey, and the opportunities are here today. In the past, we can't do anything about the past, folks. If you messed up in the past, that's what Paul started. If any of you sin, support one another, help one another, bear each other's burden, gently help that person who has sinned. And the truth is, we're all sinners. We all have problems. We should gently support each other, help each other. Use it as an opportunity to, instead of, if somebody in anger does something against you, rather than respond in kind, Jesus pointed out, love your enemies, pray for them, do good. We have opportunity every day in little ways and big ways to do good. We'll end with this. Next week we will finish up the book of Galatians, and then we will take a couple weeks off because it will be Holy Week and Easter, etc. So we'll finish up next week with the book of Galatians. And if any of y'all have any suggestions of where we should go next, let me know. I know I'll be putting that out at church, but let me know where y'all would like to go next, what book or study y'all would like. But I will take a couple weeks off for Holy Week, etc. I'll stop here. Again, it's a very important lesson, folks. We have opportunity to do good. We reap what we sow. It's the law of cause and effect. We can only get good effect if we plant good causes. Thank you.